About a week ago, Nicholas Cruz was given a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, now the parents are saying, well, he just wanted to be sentenced to death. He should have gotten that death sentence. And the day after, I came storming in with a half-hour special about Parkland Outrage. But there's still more to the show, which is why every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, Tuesday and Thursday of this week, and Sunday, we're going to be bringing you, we're going to catch you up on what's been happening since. But first, before we do that, I already updated you on the original, but first, before we do this, let's bring you up to speed on this channel so that y'all can get a better understanding. If you haven't watched the half-hour special, you can do so on my original channel, which is the American Player. So, let's once again recap you by going through the timeline from BusinessInsider.com. Let's look at how it was. This was a timeline constructed by the Brownwood Sheriff's Office. Official records and surveillance footage outlines the massacre unfolded. So, again, if you already watched the special, go ahead and skip ahead. But if you wanna continue on, you can continue watching it. So, let's go into this. 2:19, the suspect in the shooting, then 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, arrived at the majority Stoneman Douglas High School via an Uber. 2 minutes after, he entered the building 12, walking into a stairwell with a black rifle bag. He opened fire within 15 seconds, firing multiple classrooms. 1 minute goes by. The school's fire alarm goes off, prompting students to begin evacuating. This is also when the first 911 call went out. And a minute goes by. The school resource officer named Deputy Scott Peterson issues a radio alert warning shots fired. Be advised, we have could be firecrackers. I think we have shots fired. Possible shots fired. 1200 building, he said. Peterson can be seen arriving at the southeast corner of Building 12, where he remained for the duration of the incident, according to video surveillance records. Peterson would later be severely criticized for failing to enter the building as students were being gunned down. He has maintained he didn't know where the gunfire was coming from. Five minutes after, Cruz exits the school, runs towards the tennis courts, and heads south. He blends into a crowd of students as they flee the campus. So he shoots up the school, boom, 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 boom. Then all of a sudden blends in with the students, probably while still having a gun. "4 minutes. 4 police officers and 2 Broward County Sheriff's deputies enter the building for the first time. The Sheriff's Department would later face intense scrutiny over the length of time waited before entering. 28 minutes later, Cruz walks into a Walmart, buys an icy at the Subway restaurant inside, and then leaves on foot. 11 minutes later, Cruz then goes into a McDonald's restaurant, sits down, then walks on foot, asking a friend for a ride. When the friend said no, because my mom's picking me up, this and this, he asked him again, and he said no. At around 3:41, 40 minutes later, an officer with the Coconut Creek Police Department arrests Cruz in a nearby neighborhood, which was 11735 Northwest 47th Drive. This is from Coleridge Drive. I'm making a left on this drive, Coral Springs Drive, to the majority Stillman High School. 6:27. Then Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel announced that 70 people were killed in the shooting and identifies Cruz as the suspect. A day later, Cruz appeared for the first time via video. He is charged with 17 counts of murder and public defender described as a deeply troubled child who has endured a lot of emotional trauma in a short period of time with fetal alcohol syndrome. March 14th. A judge enters a not guilty plea on Cruz's behalf. His attorneys have repeatedly offered to enter a guilty plea if prosecutors will vow to pursue the death penalty. Prosecutors have rejected that deal, meaning a lengthy death penalty trial is likely. 4 years later. February 14th. The 1-year anniversary of the shooting occurs. Students, families, staff members spend the day remembering the 14 students, 3 staff members who died. Well, that's the timeline for you. That's basically that whole timeline. If you want to recap about this, you can visit the original episode on the American Player channel, which all new episodes will be on. And before we go to break, I want to point out something. The mirrored ones from November on will also be on the Game Break YouTube channel, edited, meaning turned, not mirrored, but the other way around. So I hope you can see it better. Remastered. Coming up next, the update from the judge when one of the jurors threatened the judge. We'll give you the very latest. Then what the parents say. Now remember, I told you about this almost a week ago on the original video. This is updated. So that means I'm bringing you up to speed as it goes forward. Stay with us. If you just joined us, we're looking into Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland school shooter, as he gets life in prison, or spending his life in prison. So far what we heard, was from a lot of things, but this time I want to take you into the trial. So a lot of it goes on. The prosecutor says he has this and this. Like, I never watched the trial because I was busy at the time. Before I was busy, I didn't even know about this until I heard about the sentencing, which we'll get to in a minute. But of the trial, like, a lot of people came forward. The father came forward. The students came forward. The parents came forward. Even the father was all in grief, saying, "Oh, this, and this," which I feel his anger. So, lots of videos were in. The suspect was in the school, this and this. Lots of surveillance videos have popped up. I'm not going to play you those surveillance videos, but I do want to give you an understanding. When I do school shooting episodes like this, I intentionally blame, like when I did the Oxford case, I blame the parents. Because remember, in that case, the parents bought him the gun. They failed. And now the parents go, we're not monsters. We didn't give him the gun. We didn't ignore him. Well, you know, if you heard about the case, you know. In my opinion, I think Ethan should not be sentenced to life. He should be on probation. The parents need to be facing jail time. But again, if he's pleaded not guilty, he could face that life in prison without the possibility of parole. But I'm getting off topic here. So let's look at the videos that show Nicholas Cruz plotting that school shooting.
News starts right now.
Hello, my name is Nick, and I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018. Location is Stone Douglas in Parkland, Florida.
You just heard a clip of bone-chilling cell phone video recorded by Nicholas Cruz, the Stoneman Douglas shooter.
In this cell phone video, Cruz details how he will carry out the shooting and even how many people he was planning to kill.
Our Louis Aguirre joining us live now from Parkland to show us more of this disturbing video. Louis.
Calvin, Lori, this has been a very difficult story to report on tonight because we know just how painful this is for our South Florida neighbors who are still recovering, still healing from the tragic events that took place here at the school back in February. So we want to warn those viewers that they might want to step away from the TV at this time. But that being said, we've been very sensitive to edit out the most disturbing parts of these videos that will be used by the prosecution to prove their case that, as they allege, the shooter was in his right mind when he carried out this attack and that he planned it in advance.
Location is Stone Douglas in Parkland, Florida.
Chilling cell phone video released by prosecutors that may help them prove their case that 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz knew what he was doing and that he meticulously planned it before he carried out his terror with an AR-15 on Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High that February 14th.
And I'm going to go take an Uber in the afternoon before 2:40. From there, I'll go onto school campus, walk up the stairs, load my bags, and get my AR and shoot people.
When it was over, 14 students and 3 educators were dead. 17 others were injured. The shooter faces the death penalty if convicted of first-degree murder, which requires prosecutors prove the crime was premeditated. For Lori Alhadeff, whose daughter Alyssa was killed, the video speaks for itself.
He planned it. I think that he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what weapon he was going to use.
At least one of the 3 videos released appears to have been recorded on the day of the attack.
Today is the day that it all begins.
In one video, the shooter says that right now he is nothing, that his life is meaningless, but only vaguely hints at his motive.
I had enough of telling me that I'm an idiot and a dumbass.
The video has been shared on social media, with many of the Parkland kids blasting its release. Emma Gonzalez tweeting, "I've been off Twitter for a couple of days. First thing I see when I log back in is the person who killed my friends. Please do us a favor and listen to us when we say we don't want his face plastered everywhere we look. Thank you and have a good night, because none of us will be."
And that's been pretty much the tone that of the response that we've received here in Parkland this evening. People are very upset. Those videos are out there. They don't want to give the shooter any more notoriety. They want the attention back on the victims, back on the victims' families. But again, this video was shared by the prosecution as part of discovery, where they are forced to share the evidence they have against the accused with the defense. And in Florida, evidence that is shared in discovery does become public record, and that is why that video was released today. Lori, Calvin, back to you.
Our Louis Aguirre in Parkland. Louis, thanks.
And this is just outrageous for me to hear because now that is being played into evidence. So, yeah. Okay. Still ahead. The jurors who will recommend life or death. That was 6 days. That was just 6 days ago. Before that fateful day that week ago. Then an update about that juror or jurors who threatened that judge. Stay with us. Now we're going to meet the jurors who recommended the life sentence. Remember, it was like 9-3. 9 for life, 3 for death. So I guess life sentence 1. So let's look at the jurors.
The 2018 Parkland school shooting is the deadliest U.S. mass shooting to go before a jury. His guilty pleas to the murders in October of last year, 17 Marjorie Stoneman Douglas staff and students set up the penalty phase, which started with jury selection in April. On June 29th, the court swore in the 12 people who will consider whether Nicholas Cruz should be sentenced to life or death. There are 7 men and 5 women in the 12-member panel. They include a university claims adjuster, retail stocking supervisor, probation officer, human resources worker, former music industry worker, now employed at a family-run business, and a former French military officer who currently works in the financial sector. Another juror is an immigration officer who served in the U.S. military. There's the medical device compliance investigator who likes romance movies and explained why she has a great respect for police. During jury selection, the defense asked for their views about young people playing violent first-person shooter video games. Here's what a juror in this case, a computer technician with 3 small children, had to say. An IT analyst whose mom is a licensed mental health counselor offering this take on the same question. There is also a legal assistant and a Broward library worker who told the court they have had a positive experience with mental health services. All said they could put any personal bias or beliefs aside to fairly consider and weigh the evidence before deciding whether to recommend life or death.
Those were 12 jurors total. Now it was 9 who said life, and it was 9 who said life in prison, and the 3 said death. But there's probably more to this. And about a year ago, before that sentence, Nicholas Cruz wanted to say, "Well, I just want the families to decide my fate." So that's what I'm going to show you when we come back. So when we return, we're going to take you back to that trial, play you a portion of that. We're going to hear from Nicholas Cruz's side to where he says, "Well, I want the families to decide my fate. I don't want it at the hands of the jury." Stay with us. If you just joined us on this incredible thing for the GMB YouTube channel, we're talking about Nicholas Cruz here. Now, if you guys don't remember, it was about weeks ago when it was about almost a week ago when he was sentenced to life in prison, not the possibility of parole. And the day after that, I personally came on doing the whole thing with the timeline, everything, going back and forth with the trial, this and this. That's exactly what we're going to do with throughout this Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday. So you guys can get a better understanding as we walk you through what goes on. So to where we left off here, he pleaded not guilty. Now they changed his mind to guilty. Now let's hear from Nicholas Cruz from back in 2021 as he says, "Well, I want the families to just decide my fate."
Okay, Mr. Cruz, we did this on Friday. We're going to do this again with regard.
So let's take a look at a portion.
Would both sides please announce their names for the record?
What's the name?
On behalf of Nicholas Cruz. David Wheeler, on behalf of Nicholas Cruz.
Michael Satz, on behalf of the state of Florida.
Jeff Marcus, on behalf of the state of Florida.
Carolyn McCann on behalf of the state of Florida.
Okay, we're here for the defendant's change of plea. I have the plea form. I have the score sheet. the rights waiver, and as far as I'm concerned, we're ready to go. Ms. McNeil?
We're ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Okay, do you want to bring your client to the podium, or do you want him to have him stand there?
Whatever you
I
prefer,
think it
Your
would be
Honor.
easier if he comes to the podium.
There's some additional attachments to the plea
I
form.
saw, thank you
Okay.
very much. Okay, Mr. Cruz, we did this on Friday. We're going to do this again with regard to case number 181958. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Please state your full name for the record.
Nicholas Cruz.
Now, I know you answered these questions on Friday, but I have to ask you again. Are you currently under the influence of any alcohol or illegal drugs?
No, ma'am.
Do you take any medication, or have you started taking any medication since Friday?
No, ma'am.
And you said that you have been perhaps informally diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Did you think of anything else since Friday?
No.
Okay. And are either of those issues disturbing you in any way today?
Yes.
So the depression and anxiety are bothering you today?
Not the depression, just a little anxiety.
Okay. A little anxiety is normal under the circumstances. What I need to know is, are you able to understand me and listen to me when I'm speaking to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you able to follow along with your lawyers when they speak to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you having any trouble concentrating?
No.
And other than being nervous or anxious, are you having any difficulty understanding anything that's going on here today?
No, I understand what's going on.
Okay. And sir, please, how old are you?
I am 23 years old.
And again, how far did you get in school?
I think 11th grade.
And you do read and write the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you gone over the plea form with your lawyer or lawyers?
Yes, I have, ma'am.
Okay, and did you, I'm going to just go ahead and have you pass this to one of you, please? Yes. And Mr. Cruz, if you would please take a look at this document and let me know if that's the document that you went over with your lawyers, including the addendums, which list counts 18 through 34, along with their minimum and maximum penalty, as well as their minimum mandatories under Florida's 1020 life statute.
Yes, ma'am.
And those are your signatures and your initials?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you go over each and every one of those pages with your lawyer or with your lawyers, plural?
Yes, I have.
And did your lawyers explain each and every charge to you, as well as the maximum penalty under Florida's 1020 life statute for the attempted murder count? Any of these charges, which may not include a mandatory life sentence at a minimum. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading to these charges, you are facing a minimum best case scenario of life in prison?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you discussed this strategy with your lawyers?
Yes, I have.
And do you believe that it is in your best interest to enter into a plea to these charges and waive your right to go to trial and require the state to prove these charges against you beyond and to the exclusion of a reasonable doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you gone over the pros and cons of that decision with your lawyers?
Yes, I have.
And have you had enough time to consider both the pros and the cons of your decision?
I have.
Ultimately, it is your decision, and whatever decision you make is fine with me. I'm not here to tell you what decision to make. I'm here to make sure that whatever decision it is that you make is made knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently, so that you are fully informed and you understand the consequences of your decision. Have you gone over the consequences of this plea here today of guilty with your lawyers?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that you are waiving your right to have the first part of the trial, which is often referred to as the guilt phase, where the jury would find you guilty or not guilty?
I understand.
And do you understand that the state will still have the opportunity to present testimony and evidence against you at what's called phase 2, or the penalty phase of the trial?
Yes, I do understand.
Okay, and you've gone over that with your lawyers in depth, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about your decision?
Yes.
You do have a question?
I was wondering if I could say something to the victims.
Okay, well, before you do that, do you have any questions about the rights that you're waiving, or about the decision that you're making, or the strategy decision that you're making with your lawyers as far as pleading today?
No, I understand.
Okay, and you fully had the chance to think about that and to discuss that with your attorneys, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone threatened or coerced you into entering into this plea today?
No, ma'am.
And sir, have you had ample time or enough time to speak to your lawyers about your plea?
Yes.
And is there anything else you feel your lawyers need to do on your behalf that they have not already done before you enter into your plea today?
No, ma'am.
Sir, do you understand? I've gone over charges 1 through 17. I've told you that they carry a minimum of life in prison and a maximum of the death penalty. Counts 18 through 34 you're charged by indictment with attempted murder in the first degree, and each of those carries a separate penalty, so I'm going to go over those with you now. With regard to count 18, attempted murder in the first degree concerning victim Ashley Baez, you're facing up to a 25-year minimum mandatory prison sentence because the state has alleged that you actually possessed a firearm, that you discharged that firearm. A life statute which carries on this count a 25-year minimum mandatory prison sentence. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Count 31 is the attempted murder in the first degree of presented against you by the state at the penalty phase in this trial.
So I'm skipping this because I'm trying to find the part where he's all like, well, I want the families, victims, this. Okay, it's like this worry.
All right, to count 1 of the indictment, murder in the first degree of victim Luke Hoyer, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
To count 2 of the indictment, murder in the...
So yeah, we know he pleaded guilty to all of them. So now, let's get to where he's like, well, I want the victims to do this. So I think this is where, take a look.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I will do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day. And it brings me nightmares, and I can't live with myself sometimes. But I try to push through because I know that's what you guys would want me to do. I hate drugs, and I believe this country would do better if everyone would stop smoking marijuana and doing all these drugs and causing racism and violence out in the streets. I'm sorry, and I can't even watch TV anymore. And I'm trying my best to maintain my composure, and I just want you to know I'm really sorry. And I hope you give me a chance to try to help others. If I believe it's your decision to decide where I go and whether I live or die. Not the jury's. I believe it's your decision. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Nothing to say, Your Honor.
Judge, at this point, I don't think there's anything stopping the court from sentencing him on the 18-14129 case to 25 years concurrently, Judge.
So now we heard that. Now, hadn't the jury heard about that statement, they would have changed it. That still would have been a life in prison. So, I kind of feel he deserves a second chance. Maybe it depends on the jury, or probably will depend on what goes on. So, we'll keep you updated as it goes along. So, yeah, and speaking of updates, when we come back, an update about those 2 jurors that threatened the judge. Stay with us. And why the judge is mad. So, yeah, stay with us. We've heard from Nicholas Cruz back in 2021. Now let's go forward 1 year. Let's go forward this year. Let's go back to 1 month when there was a shouting match between all this and this. Take a look.
Break Trump.
Yes. At this time, the defense rests, other than putting in our records. We're not playing chess. I mean, will you please take the jury back in? Thank you. All right, go ahead and put in your records.
2B, Nicholas Cruz Henderson, is there one record?
Let me just stop. Steve, are you going to have anything ready for today?
No.
We're
expecting,
there was 80 witnesses.
we're waiting for 40 more witnesses.
I just want to say, this is the most uncalled for, unprofessional way to try a case. You all knew about this, and even if you didn't make your decision till this morning, to have 22 people plus all of this staff and every attorney march into court, be waiting as if it's some kind of game. Now I have to send them home. The state's not ready. They're not going to have a witness ready. We have another day wasted. I honestly have never experienced a level of unprofessionalism in my career. It's unbelievable.
So, Judge, if we had any pretrial matters, you asked us to be here at 9:15. We were here at 9:15 to discuss pretrial matters. I have been practicing in this county for 20 years.
You know what? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear
it. Well, Judge, you're insulting me on the record in front of my client, and I believe that I should be able to
Okay,
defend
you
myself.
can do that later. You can make your record later, but you've been insulting me the entire trial. So, blatantly, taking your headphones off, arguing with me, storming out, coming late intentionally if you don't like my rulings. So, quite frankly, this has been long overdue. So please be seated. You can receive the evidence. I will receive the evidence. And then you can put whatever you want on the record at the end.
Now let's look into where that insulting defense happened.
Maybe questioning the witness.
No, ma'am, but I understand what you're saying.
Oh, why are you standing here? To help you. Oh, okay. Who's questioning this witness? Hello? Which witness? Your next witness.
These don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, we're just entering them.
These are just records. We're just doing it now.
So is it a secret who's going to be questioning your next witness? Because I'm going to find out in like 3 minutes. Who is doing it?
If the records don't relate, but if we call the witness, it will be me. I'm assuming you're talking about that.
Who is your next witness, and when are they being called, and which attorney is going to question them? Let me be clear, if I wasn't before. Because if these don't have anything to do with your next witness, then why are we having the jury wait outside right now?
Just because we were trying to move everything in, because in terms of timing, we do it now.
In terms of timing, it would be much better to do it during the lunch break, when the jury needs longer than you all. So we'll go ahead and pass on this. Let's bring the jury in, please.
Your Honor?
Yes?
At this time, the defense rests.
That was just part of it. So, this was all to where the judge was like, I'm not playing this game, I'm not playing that. Now the jury's not going to be on side because these people are saying, well, this, and this. It's like we don't want to hear about this. It's like they want to get this trial over with so they go get a lunch break, and yet the defense is all like, well, only want witnesses, but there were not more witnesses. There's 20 witnesses, there's 30 witnesses, there's 40 witnesses, there's 80 witnesses. I just want all these witnesses to come in so we can get this trial done, shit in the urinal, and we can have a great lunch while listening to suggestion boy shitting our pants at the barn grill. Oh, you want to hear that again? We listen to suggestion more while we go shit up outside the barn grill while listening to some Luke Coward and one of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, Cowboys! It was kind of funny, and if you laughed at that, I gotta take you guys credit. Okay. Now, according to CNN about the jurors, it was ugly. It got ugly. Jurors in the Parkland school massacre case report feeling threatened and disrespected during these tense deliberations. They all blame the judge. One of the 3 jurors in the Parkland massacre case, who was against the death penalty, Nicholas Cruz, told CNN Friday she did not make a decision until the very last minute. Ultimately, she was persuaded to vote for life without parole because she felt the system failed. Cruz repeatedly throughout his life, from the schools he attended and to mental health professionals who evaluated him. On Thursday, the jury kept Cruz from getting the death penalty, recommending life in prison without parole by default. When it did not unanimously agree, Cruz should get capital punishment for the 2018 Florida killings. Some victims' families were enraged by the decision, saying they felt the jury failed them. Does this look familiar to you? It goes back to November 2000 when they decided on George Bush and the vice president. Then Joe Biden and this. It's like going, I want Bush to be president. I want Trump to be president. I want Mr. Joe Biden to be president. You have to go shit my pants, screw my wife while sitting at the bar grill, drinking beer, hugging peanuts, listen to the football, watching the football game. Go Nuts Cowboys! Bitch. It does seem kind of familiar. What did you guys think? You got other jurors also described tension during the deliberations, and in an interview, the jury foreman described disagreement among the panel, saying 3 of the 12 jurors put the death penalty in the case. Now, the sheriff's office is investigating the juror's allegation. While CNN interviewed Van Friday afternoon, a court hearing is also taking place after prosecutors asked the judge to compel law enforcement officers to interview a juror who alleged she felt threatened to investigate if a crime was committed. Juror X sported staff member because of this. That was according to the court filing. Now the question is, how did Nicholas Cruz's defense persuade the jury to spare his life? In those opening statements, the death penalty, his defense laid out a plan to persuade the jury to spare his life. They plan to present him as a disturbed, mentally ill human being. On Thursday, after months of the evidence, the jury recommended sentence life in prison without parole. Rather than a death penalty, they're shocked and many of the families. Now, look, you guys. If he has mental health, do you want to kill someone who has mental health issues? That's just outrageous. It's like killing a bald-headed kid with a shaved head who likes to torture toys. From Toy Story. A death sentence must be anonymous, so the defense only had to persuade at least one of the 12 jurors on their side. Public jury foreman Benjamin Thomas told CNN that 3 jurors voted against the death penalty. And Cruz pleaded guilty and admitted fault. Cruz was poisoned at birth from, but Brendan Woodward, who died last year, gave Cruz up adoption when he was born in 1998. The death penalty is immoral and unnecessary. So, yeah, so that's when a lot of things happen. So what you really have here is someone who says, so I agree with what the juror, I agree with the juror to say life in prison because he has mental health. So, yeah, that's what I agree with. Let's go to that photo. Let's go to 3 weeks ago when the judge allows the prosecution to look at, to release that photo of that gun.
New developments this morning as the state prepares its rebuttal for the penalty phase of the Parkland school shooter's trial. A judge ruling the state will be allowed to show jurors all of these swastikas etched on the rifle and backpack used by the gunman on the day of that 2018 massacre. It will be submitted as evidence relating to the prosecutor's witness diagnosing the shooter with antisocial personality disorder. As for his social media and internet searches, there will be limits on how much can be presented. Court is scheduled to resume tomorrow.
That video that would happen. All right. On Thursday, we'll look at the judge's issues on ruling the social media evidence. Then we're going to watch more from 2 months ago. And the question is, why would the shooter demand that why the jury not be allowed inside? So those are the questions we'll focus on Thursday. So that's it for now. I'll see you tomorrow for a new episode of Give Me a Break on the American Player YouTube channel. And I'll see you Thursday for all this. So stop bullying, speak up. Good night, everyone.